Solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. Then we can use the square root property. Why can I not immediately use the square root property right now? It's because I have an x squared here and an x to the first here. I can't have that. To use the square root property, I have to have just one item, a binomial, whatever, squared. That's when I can use the square root property. So, I'm going to solve this quadratic equation. And how do I do that? Okay, first of all, I want to get my variables by themselves. So I have x squared minus 6x. I'm going to get rid of that 10. How do I get rid of that 10? Yes, it's being added. So what will I do to both sides? I will subtract 10 from both sides. So it cancels out there, shows up over here. Now I need to find a special number. I explained this in my overview video. I need to find this special number to where when I factor this, it will be something squared. And I can use a square root property. What number should we add here? What is my special number? You take the number with the x to the first. In this case, it is 6. Divide it by 2, and then we will square it. I take the number with the x to the first, divide it by 2, and then we square it. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. My special number is 9. So I'm going to add 9. But if I add 9 to the left side, I have to add 9 to the right side. Now I know what you're thinking here. You're thinking, why didn't she pull down the negative 6 instead of just a 6? Well, let's face it. If I square a positive or if I square a negative, no matter what, this number will always end up positive. So, why am I choosing to add 9 to both sides? I want to add 9 to both sides, so when I factor this, it's going to be something squared. Go ahead, factor this. X minus 3 times x minus 3, that's what it will be. To get x squared, I would need x times x. To get 9, I can use 9 times 1. That won't work. Or 3 times 3. I'm going to use 3 times 3. And to get a positive 9, you need to use a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. Why do you think I'm using a negative times a negative? Because I want to get negative 6x in the middle. Do you need to review those factoring videos? So, x squared minus 6x plus 9, you already told me that it will factor into x minus 3 times x minus 3, which is x minus 3 squared. On the right side, negative 10 plus 9 is a negative 1. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. If I take the square root of the left side, I have to take the square root of the right side. On the left side, that's going to be just x minus 3. Do not forget on the right side the plus or minus. And look at this. Radical negative 1, that is just I. Just I. Radical negative 1. I can't have a negative underneath the radical. Just I. Is x all by itself yet? No. I need to add 3 to both sides. And so I will have x is equal to, and I like to write my number first and my I at the end. That's a positive 3 plus or minus I. That is not 3i. I am not multiplying it. I have positive 3 that I had to add to both sides. What does a plus or minus go with? It goes with the I. This is where I did the plus or minus. It doesn't go with the 3. The 3 was subtracted, I added to both sides. Here's my positive 3. But don't forget it's the plus or minus I. Okay, another problem. It's a quadratic equation. I see the x squared. I know it's quadratic. Do you want to solve this by factoring? Well, we can't. There's no way I can multiply to get 29 and add or subtract those things to get to 4. Do you want to use a square root property? Well, you can't. You have an x squared and an x. I don't have just one item squared. But I could complete the square and then use the square root property. So let's get our variables on the left and let's get rid of this 29. You know what I'm doing. I am subtracting 29 from both sides. So I will have x squared minus 4x on the left. On the right side, I will have negative 29. Now let's complete the square. I take the number with the x, in this case it's 4, divide it by 2, and then I square it. Now remember, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, because when we square it, it's going to always be positive. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to add 4. But if I add 4 to the left side, I have to add 4 to the right side. On the left side, I will factor that. That will be x minus 2 times x minus 2, which is x minus 2 squared. I planned it like that. When I picked that special number, I planned to be able to factor right now and get something squared. On the right side, just work it out. Negative 29 plus 4 is a negative 25. Now, do I have a squared item all by itself? Yes, I do. So I can take the square root of both sides. The square root of x minus 2 squared is just x minus 2. On the right side, do not forget your plus or minus. Whenever you take the square root of both sides, it is plus or minus. The square root of negative 25, oh, there's a negative underneath there. So that will be 5, because the square root of 25 is 5, but it's a negative, so I know that's going to be an imaginary number. I'm not quite done. I have it solved for x. I need to add 2 to both sides. On the left side, I will have x is equal to. Now don't put this 2 and 5 together. They're not like terms. They can't go together. The plus or minus is with what? The 2 or the 5i? The 5i. Don't put it with the 2. The 2 is positive, so it'd just be 2 plus or minus 5i. Your answer is 2 plus 5i and 2 minus 5i.